All right, let's take a look at section 4 of chapter 2, the origins of American slavery. The English had long viewed alien peoples with disdain, including the Irish, Native Americans, and Africans. They described them as savage, pagan, and uncivilized. Race nor racism had yet to develop as a full ideology. The main lines of division were civilization versus barbarism, or Christianity versus heathenism. Africans were seen as so alien that they could be enslaved as a people. Most English also deemed Indians to be uncivilized, and some were sold into slavery in the Caribbean. But it was difficult to enslave a people in their own backyard, and much easier to enslave people transported to the Americas from the distant shores of West Africa. Slavery has existed for nearly the entire span of human history. In the Mediterranean world, trade in Slavic peoples survived into the 15th century. The English word slavery derives from Slav. In the Americas, slavery was based on the plantation, an agricultural enterprise that brought together large numbers of workers under the control of a single owner. This imbalance magnified the possibility of slave resistance, leading to a rigid policing system and a sharp boundary between slavery and freedom. Plantation labor was demanding, and the death rate among slaves was high. American slavery led to a permanent line between whites and blacks, with enslaved Africans in the Americas always carrying their skin color as a mark of prior bondage. English sugar planters imported enslaved Africans because the venture was economically profitable and resolved a labor shortage that indentured servitude could not resolve. Sugar plantation agriculture expanded quickly by 1600 in Portuguese Brazil. Other European powers quickly joined Spain in colonizing the West Indies. Indentured servitude soon gave way to African slave labor on large sugar plantations owned by rich English elites. Barbados experienced a rapid rise in African slave labor as the white population stagnated. Black and white population ratios became imbalanced, and the black population of the West Indies dwarfed that of British North America. Sugar became a mass-marketed crop in Europe, generating tremendous profits. English Barbados and modern Haiti became the most important trading colonies for England and France. In 1619, white Virginians bought enslaved Africans for the first time and put them to work on tobacco farms and within households. English pirates sailing under a Dutch flag sold 20 to 30 Bantu speakers from Angola. Compared to its rapid introduction in Brazil and the West Indies, slavery developed slowly in North America. Slaves cost more than indentured servants, and a high death rate among tobacco workers on Virginia plantations made slaves a risky purchase. Thus, as late as 1680, blacks comprised only 5% of the Chesapeake non-Indian population. Distinctions between black and white were still minimal, and property ownership counted most for separating people. But the arrival of Africans would exert tremendous impacts on Virginia and the United States over the next several centuries. Given the demand for male servant labor in the tobacco fields, men at first vastly outnumbered women in the colony, and various factors contributed to late marriage and a low rate of family formation during the 1600s. Although women in Virginia, as in England, had few legal rights, conditions in the colonies gave women roles and legal rights that they could not assume in the mother country. Widows and unmarried women embraced their right to conduct business, make contracts, and even sometimes administer estates. But most white women arrived in Virginia as indentured servants, often subject to hard labor and sexual abuse from their masters. Virginia avidly promoted the immigration of women, including several dozen tobacco brides who arrived in 1620 and 1621 for arranged marriages. The high death rate, unequal ratio between the sexes, and late age of marriage for those who found partners produced a society with large numbers of single men, widows, and orphans. Patriarchal ideas remained in place, but were weakened by fathers' inability to supervise the careers and marriages of their children. In the English colonies, as in England, a married woman had a claim to dower rights of 1/3 of her husband's property in the event that he died before she did. Because of coverture, however, when the widow died, the property passed to the husband's male heirs. Still, women assumed roles in the English colonies that they rarely assumed in Europe. Widows and women who never married took advantage of their legal status as femme sole, a woman alone who enjoyed an independent legal identity, to make contracts and conduct business. While Maryland, like Virginia, was a tobacco colony, it was established later, in 1632, by King Charles I as a proprietary colony of Cecilius Calvert. Calvert ruled Maryland like a feudal domain, controlling its trade and the decisions of its elected assembly, despite the charter's guarantee giving ordinary Maryland colonists all the rights and privileges of Englishmen. Calvert, of Catholic, also saw Maryland as a refuge for persecuted fellow Catholics in England, and at first he hoped Catholics and Protestants could live there in harmony. But Protestants, mostly indentured or former servants, soon outnumbered Catholics, and their frustration mounted as they faced diminishing opportunities for land ownership in the latter half of the 17th century. So that's the end of section 4. We'll go from there.